Hi kids, time for another math video. This one is for Module 6, Lesson 7, homework. So yes, I am here to help you. Hooray! Okay, so we're going to jump right in. Now the objective on this lesson, again, we're still graphing, going to be graphing for all of Module 6 pretty much. The objective is to plot points. Plot is just a fancy word for saying put the point on the graph. Use them to draw lines in the plane and then describe patterns within the coordinate pairs. So again, we're looking for the relationship between x and y. How are these two numbers related? Okay, so you're going to look down the columns and look for how they're related. How are these related? How are these related? Because they're all going to be related in the same way. And so you're looking for that relationship. So let's get started with this, and again, really just use this video as a backup. So you should always try to do the work first. The best way to do it on your own, try to do it first. If you mess it up, then go back and check. If you're not sure that you messed it up, try it first and then check on the video. Okay, so it says complete the chart. This is super easy right here. Then plot the points on the coordinate plane. Super easy, and yet I am always shocked at how many kids just don't quite catch on doing this right. Put a parenthesis, copy the first one, put a comma, copy the second, and the parenthesis. That is all there is to it. All you have to do is copy, copy, but you have to do it in this format. Notice it's a parenthesis, a comma, and a parenthesis. That's all. So you can do that on your own right now. Comma. Copy correctly. That's another little thing. 2.5, 6, and 4. So, done with that. Plot the points on the coordinate plane. Okay, time to figure out what you remember. Now this axis here, you can label it as x, because we always are going to use the x-axis first, and then this one that goes up is y. We crawl before we climb, if that's how you want to think about it. So now we have to plot the points if x is 2, y is 0, which means I'm going to go down the x street before I go up the y street. So x is 2, so we go right, but if it's 0 here, I do not go up the y-axis, which means I have a point right on the x-axis. Okay, next one is 3.5, 1.5. So if you look at what this graph is counting by, they have all these lines that are in between the singles or the counting by ones, which means they're counting by halves. So you're going to find the 3.5 x value. So you go out here to the one in between the 3 and the 4. Okay, and then you're going to follow that up. I always stick right on that line to where the y is. I'll put a dot and then I'll go back and double check and make sure that's where my y value is, and then I just go back and check my point. Now one thing you're going to notice is that as you're plotting the points, you should be creating points in a straight line. Okay? Next one is 4.5, 2.5. 4.5 here, up. Here's 2, here's 2.5. Again, they should all be in a row. If you have something sticking out on the side, you made a mistake, go back and check it. 6 and 4, all the way out to 6, and then all the way up to 4. Plot those points. Once you have plotted the points, then you're going to use a straight edge to draw a line connecting these points. Please don't freehand, okay? Do not freehand it. Get a ruler, get the edge of a book, get a box, get something that is straight, lay it down with all your dots. It will help you to see things that are straight. Take the time and pay attention to the details. Done with that. Now we're going to go back to the x, y values, and you're going to write a rule showing the relationship between the x and y coordinates of points on this line. So let's look back at these numbers. If you think, okay, I've got 2 for x and I have 0 for y. So the difference between these, and I will ask that to my students all the time, what's the difference between these two numbers? And I'm not talking about one's curvy and this one's curvy and closed like a circle. Now, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about literally the subtraction difference subtract to find the difference. And then when you get that answer, you have to figure out how are all the ways I can get there. So what is the difference? Well, the difference between 2 and 0 is 2. So I'm looking for a difference of 2. But is that going to stay consistent? 3.5 minus 1.5, that would also give me 2. 4.5, and the difference between 4.5 and 2.5, that is also going to give me 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. So when you look at that consistent change between your x and your y, that is the rule, okay? So sometimes it's not going to be a simple subtraction problem to find the difference. Sometimes y will be more than x. Sometimes y will be less than x. Are you going to divide x, or are you going to add to it? So you have to find the relationship between the two. Then you write the rule. So the rule showing the relationship between the x and y coordinates for this chart is that if you take x and you subtract 2, you will get y. Okay? You can also say it this way. Y is 2 less than x. And so that's another way, but this is just with kind of the words and making sense of it. This is your equation. You will use this because you're going to be plugging in different values in order to get from one value to the next. Sometimes they'll give you x's, sometimes they'll give you y's. Okay, so now we have this rule. Done. Name 2 other points that are on this line. Okay, now we don't have to have points on the graph. We could have points out here or down, well, we're not going to talk about down below because that's negatives, and we're just not going to do that yet because you get to do that next year. But if I wanted to talk about positive values this way and positive values this way, I could continue this line forever in this direction, and I would have nothing but positive values if I follow this rule. So you can come up with any 2 points. Remember, you have to have one here, then a comma, then another, and they have to be in parentheses. And your points don't have to match mine. But whatever you put for x, let's say 12, y would then have to be 2 less. So take this value for x, plug it into the equation, do the step, or this is the subtraction, minus 2, and get y. That's all. You could put 200 here and then put 198 over here. You could put 50 here and 48 here. Whatever you put for x, your choice, whatever, take 2 away, and that is your answer here. Okay? So it's really any numbers will work, but you have to make sure that the y value is 2 less than your x. Okay? You figure this one out. Good luck. Okay, those are the 2 other points that are on the line. Now, complete the chart, then plot the points on the coordinate plane. Now we get to start all over doing another chart and with another rule. Okay, now this one, sometimes they'll start out with a 0, 0 just because a lot of things can have 0, 0, but I could have a line going this way. Let me get instead of my big old hand, I could have a line that goes like this, that goes through 0, 0, and one that goes like this through 0, 0, and like this through 0, 0. So having a 0, 0 is, you can't determine the rule based on having zeros. See, that one doesn't even count. We have to use something else, okay? So let's move on. Next step is just copy. This is easy, copy. Copy correctly and in the proper format. 1/2. 1.5, 1, 3. Now, when you look at these values, you have to find how they are related, okay? So now it's not going to be quite as simple as, oh, well, you add 2 or subtract 2, because look, when I finally get to the whole number, this is a 3 instead of a 2 or 1.5 or something like that. So what is happening between each x and each y? Well, which one's bigger? y is bigger. How much bigger? And that's when you start thinking about, well, what operation do I do? Am I adding or am I multiplying? If I add, do I add the same thing to each x value and will it work? So if you look at 1/4 to 3/4, okay, so what if I said, oh, I'm going to add 1/2? But if I add 1/2 to 1/2, I would only get 1. So that wouldn't work. So you can't just have a simple like one-step option. You have to have, okay, well, if I'm increasing it, how much am I increasing by? A hint. Try to find where 1 is so that you can see the pure difference between them. Sometimes kids will get lost with all the fractions, but if you can find 1, then you can see that for x, if it's 1, y is 3. That means that it's either going to be like add 2 or multiply by 3 so that I can see this is going to be bigger, but now I have something to apply. If I multiply this by 3, look, I would get 3/4. What if I multiply this by 3? Okay, I would get 3/2 or 1.5. So, now I'm starting to know what the rule is. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's plot these points. 0, 0, that's for both x and y. 1/4, ooh, and then look at here. What is the number line counting by? If this is 1 way over here, and I have line, line, line 1, line, line, line 2, okay, what are they counting by? They're counting by fourths, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So everything is by fourths on this graph. So to look at 1/4 for x and 3/4 for y, plot there. 1/2, which is equal to 2/4, and 1.5. So we're going to go all the way up here past 1, halfway between 1 and 2, because if you're counting by 1/4, that would be 1/4, 2/4. The next one is 1, which is out here, all the way up to 3. Now again, your points should be in a line. Get your straight edge. Pay attention to details. If your points are out of whack, then you made a mistake somewhere and go fix it. Okay? But they have to all be on the same line because mathematically that's what we're doing. We're solving for these points on a line. Okay? So, did that. Now we're going to write a rule, and we already talked about what is the rule. Oh, by the way, click subscribe and come back again. Be a subscriber, and you'll be notified every time I upload a video. So maybe you'll be waiting for a particular video, and I will upload that, and you'll be the first to know. So be a subscriber. Anyway, write a rule showing the relationship between the x and y coordinates. Whatever you do with x, if you multiply by 3, you will get y. So whatever you have for x, 1/4, if you multiply by 3, we proved it, you will get y. You can also say y is 3 times x. That also works, but this is kind of easier to plug in. Now name 2 other points that are also on this line. Take any x, okay? And so let's just say, again, if you're going to multiply by 3, it's going to increase a lot and quickly. So try to keep it simple. And if you're just starting out, I like to keep things like just do 2. Don't go all with the fractional values if you're not good at calculating. Then if you plug in the 2 here, 2 times 3 would be 6. So your ordered pair would be 2 and 6. If you have, say, a 3, plug in the 3 here. 3 times 3 would be 9. You're not putting in the 3, okay? That's static. That stays there. You're plugging in your x value, and then you're putting your y value as your answer. So the y is going to change based on what your x is. Okay, I hope that is pretty clear. All right, moving right along. On the back, use the coordinate plane to answer the following questions. For any point on line M, the x coordinate is what? So find line M, this one, what is the x coordinate. So you can plot points. You could just say, okay, well, if I go here, I have 10, and then for my y value, it's 2. Okay, how about this one? It's 10 and 8. How about 10 and 20? So the x coordinate is always what? 10. And so when you have a vertical line, your x coordinate will always be the same. Next one, give the coordinates for 3 points that are on line N. Here's line N, okay? And so you're going to have coordinates for 3 points. That means you have to have 2 numbers for 1 point. So use your x and your y axes to identify what the points are. Now, just here's a hint. Try to always stick with whole numbers if you can. If you were to use, say, odd numbers on this, notice that the odd numbers are not actually on a line. They're still there, okay? Because between 0 and 2, there's 1. It just doesn't have a line, and it's helpful for 5th graders if you just stick with the lines that are actually on the graph and look for where they cross, okay? So 3 coordinates on line N, I would go to, say, right here, 4, 10, because that's just a nice, easy crossing point. There go the lights. Woo! It's like a light show. Nice, easy crossing point. It seems that every intersection has a crossing point, so I'm going to go out here where I have another one. Let's use 12 and 18. And then go out here for the end, and let's use 18 and 24. You can use anything you want. You do not have to use my points. You can use any intersecting points here. But notice the difference between all the points. And what is the rule that describes the relationship between the x and y coordinates on this line? What is the difference between 4 and 10? Okay, which one's bigger? Y is bigger. That means we're adding to x or multiplying. Okay, how much? By how much? And if you're not sure, try to go back to the simple low values. Again, you could do like, say, 2 and 8 if getting into these numbers is too hard for you. What's the difference between 2 and 8? So try to find numbers that will help you think, and then the rule you should notice is that y is 6 more than x. And the way that you would write the formula, this is the rule, but the formula so you can apply it in the future, okay? We're going to take whatever x is, we're going to add 6 to get y. So this is the formula, this is the rule, okay? So I like to always make sure I put in the formula because that's really helpful. Give the coordinates for 3 points that are on line Q. All right, so here's Q, and they're always kind of cursive, so it looks really weird. Sorry, I'm not in charge of that, but there it is. This is line Q. So 3 points that are on line Q, and look at how this one crosses in the middle. Now, like I said, there are still numbers there. So if I had to plot this point right here, I might say if this is x for 6, then I would go all the way back here to find the 3. So I can have 6 and 3 as an ordered pair or a coordinate pair for a point on line Q. I can do that. It might be easier for you guys if you look for the exact crisscrossing points, like say a 4, 2, or a 16, 8, something like that, okay? But you may certainly do one of the middle ones. If you had 14, what would it be back here? And what do you notice about these pairs? Because that is E, right? A rule that describes the relationship between x and y coordinates on line Q. Well, 6 then 3, 4 then 2, 16 then 8. So what is the difference? Well, first of all, y is smaller. So what are you doing to x to get y? And you might notice, and I hope you do, that you're dividing by 2. Whatever x is, if you divide by 2, you should get y. Try it out. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. Yep. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Yep. 16 for x divided by 2 equals 8. Yes. So once you try that out, you can see that your formula will work. Okay. Last one. Oh, and another thing, sometimes you'll be given the y value as opposed to the x value, and so you have to kind of know how to work it backwards. And just remember that if you were to take the y and multiply it by 2, you're doing the opposite operation, and that will give you the x. So you can go back and forth. On some of these assignments, you'll have to figure out what the x is. So just remember, they are connected, but you just have to do the opposite of what the rule is that you've been given, okay, or that you came up with. Okay, last one, F. Identify a line on which each of these points lie. Okay, so we're going to have to go searching and find the line. 10 and then, ooh, 3.2. Is that on there? Well, yes, of course. A number line has an infinite number of points on that line. So 10 for x, right here, and then 3.2 for y. So if I just go up here, and then I see that 3 would be right here, but 3.2 would be right here, because I'm still going up my y-axis. So 10 and 3.2 would be on this line M, because all the points on line M have 10 as their x value. So the line on which this point is, it's on line M. Okay, line M. Next one, 12.4 and 18.4. And again, 12.4, if this is 13, okay, then 12.4 is kind of in the middle. And then I have to go up to 18.4. So where's that? That's up here. So if this is 19 and 18.4 is somewhere out there, follow that little tick mark and then follow it back. And what line would you be on? So you can put like a little helper if you need to. You can erase it though. I don't usually leave these out here. What line are you on? You're on line N. And it does help if you write it in cursive, but I know that's a struggle for some people. So just try to be neat and show that it's line N. The next one, 6.45, or almost 6.5 with 12. So 6 almost and a half would be here because that's 7. And then we're going to go up to 12. Boop, 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 boop. And here's 12. On this line, what line is that? And you might say it looks like an E or an L, but I'm going to call it an L because it looks like a cursive L. Usually the E's are kind of tiny and cramped. And then 14 and 7. 14 and 7 is here. Don't go up too high. And this is going to be on line Q. All right, so that is the homework for lesson 7, and I hope this was helpful. And again, try your best without using the video, but we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.